Elias Schuster from Bleacher Nation went out there and dropped a list of potential targets for the Chicago Bulls, putting in a little list for us of potential targets that the Chicago Bulls could look at this offseason. And those names are highlighted by guys like Paul Reed, DayRon Sharpe, and Precious Achiuwa, with many, many more on the list. Y'all know we're going to talk about it and break it down, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Shy Bulls Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. If you're tuned in with me today, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Now, as previously mentioned, my man's Elias Schuster from Bleacher Nation went out there and dropped a list of potential targets for the Chicago Bulls, putting a little off-season work for us over here in Bulls Nation. And we already know coming into this offseason after the horrible loss in the play-in, hey, the Chicago Bulls pretty much set out their plans and how they want to move forward. They want to go out there and find young players with experience. They want to develop internally, and they want to have control of their assets. We talked about the asset control. We talked about the internal development. Now let's see if they can find some more young players with said experience that they can bring on to the team to where they could potentially help this team take another step forward in this process that some of us are dreading. I ain't gonna lie to you. Some of us are dreading this process. But according to Elias Schuster, some of those names on the list include Jake LaRavia coming from Sacramento, Caleb Houston out of Orlando, Josh Minot out of Minnesota, and Charles Bassey. And I'm going to talk about these four players because I think that they really highlight the list that Elias put out for us, and that's Precious Achiuwa, DayRon Sharpe, Keon Johnson, and Paul Reed. Now, the other four guys that are listed up on here, look, it's no shot to them. It's just that I like the other guys a little bit better personally. That's just my preference. I understand these other guys that are on the list could potentially come in and help the Chicago Bulls, but I believe the list is highlighted by the four players we're going to talk about today. So first on the list, we're going to talk about Paul Reed, who is last playing with the Detroit Pistons, but we also seen him spend some time in Philly. Last season, Paul Reed appeared in 45 games, only played about 10 minutes in those games, giving the Detroit Pistons 4 points, 1 assist, 1 steal, kind of. It's like a 0.9, and then almost a little bit over a half a block while averaging 50% from the field. Not a really good three-point shooter, not really a three-point taker, but that doesn't negate what Paul Reed can potentially bring to the Chicago Bulls. Paul Reed, in my personal evaluation from the times I have seen Paul Reed, that man can go out there. He can bring some toughness to the Chicago Bulls. He can go out there and bring more defense to the Chicago Bulls. We've seen the Chicago Bulls be this newly offensive type of team with different things changing on the offensive side of the ball. But our biggest downfall that was highlighted in the play-in is that there's no defense. So you bring in a guy like Paul Reed, I think it'll be very, very interesting for the team. This is a 6'9" guy that played power forward and center, and he has some really, really good moments versus my Chicago Bulls. I ain't gonna lie to you. We definitely found out who he was really, really quick. And with the increased minutes, you see increased production. You know what I'm saying? Last year for the Philadelphia 76ers, though he only started 24 games, he played in 82 games, playing about 20 minutes per game, and gave the Philadelphia 76ers 7 points, 1 full block, let's put that on the docket, and 54% from the field. So I think it's an absolutely good prospect to go out there and evaluate for what you want for the Chicago Bulls and see what he can bring on there. But bring to the Chicago Bulls. I think he'll be a good versatile defender, and he already known as being a good defensive player. I don't necessarily think this is a guy that will start, but definitely could come in and add some depth to the Chicago Bulls and what they are trying to do and how we're trying to improve this team. So we'll see. We'll see. It'll be very, very interesting to see if Paul Reed can end up as a Chicago Bull. Next on the list, we talk about DayRon Sharpe. Look, DayRon Sharpe got bunnies. That's all I know. He got bunnies. He got some physicality to him. He is an aggressive type of defensive player that the Chicago Bulls need. This is a 6'11 center who, bad. Look, hey, my man's got some real good skin in the game with how he's been playing these last few seasons, at least with the minimum time that you've seen of him on the basketball court. This past season with the Brooklyn Nets, 50 games, only started 2, averaged about 18 minutes, but went out there, gave them about 8 points, almost a full block, almost a full steal, and 6.6 rebounds, which is pretty damn good in just 18 minutes. I ain't gonna lie. It's okay. It's not too shabby, not too bad. And gave the Brooklyn Nets 52% from the field. I only shot 24% from the 3, but again, not many attempts coming from a big, and that is totally fine with me. I don't need my bigs, all my bigs on my team to go out there and be 3-point shooters. How do you affect the game is what's going to matter most to me. Another defensive guy who's going to be able to come in a Chicago Bulls uniform if they are willing to look at a DayRon Sharpe, but that's best known for his rebounding, especially his offensive rebounding and his overall hustle. I ain't too mad at it. I think this young fella can go out there and provide some good depth, especially keeping in mind that the Washington Wizards have been urged to keep an eye on Jalen Smith. Like I said, I don't think Jalen Smith is a bad person, but I think that, hey, if you can go ahead and shop Jalen Smith and get you some draft capital and bring in somebody who could be just as impactful of him in a different type of way, why not? I'm all for it. I ain't even gonna lie to you, but hey, you got to show love to it. The man definitely on the offensive side of the rebounding docket, on the rebounding side, offensively, he gonna give you 3 offensive rebounds per game. At least that's what he did in his 50 games for the Brooklyn Nets last season. That's 3 extra possessions in a game. We can use all that. We can use all that for how many threes the Chicago Bulls are gonna chuck up moving forward. But hey, the next person on the list is gonna be Precious Achiuwa. Look, we know who Precious Achiuwa is. This man, you know, C-Dub, when he do the live call, he gonna butcher the man name a little bit. We gotta get him right. But we seen him when Precious Achiuwa was down there, well, up there in Canada with Toronto, and then eventually moved on down to the New York Knicks, trying to help those guys out. And Spencer, and he's currently with them right now. Only appeared in 57 games, but did end up starting 10 and averaged about 20 minutes per game, only giving the New York Knicks 6 points, 5 total rebounds, 50% from the field, and not really a 3-point shooter. And that is totally fine. For my people that I'm just giving out those shooting splits in a way, just so you can have an understanding on, these centers or these wings that we could potentially be bringing on to the team to see what they could potentially bring on to the team. So we just go ahead and evaluate in that. But I am intrigued by Precious Achiuwa as well. Definitely one of those guys who is an athletic guy who has the size necessary. Maybe not as big as you want a center, but 6'8" in today's NBA is not too bad. Now, there could be some situations to where he get a little pushed around a little bit because of the size or the, not necessarily having the big crazy shoulders that you see some of these other centers may have. But I think that the young fella can come out there and give the Chicago Bulls some good depth off the bench as well. Not too mad at it. It is what it is. But I definitely think that with the Bulls constantly looking at young players with experience, you look at these last 3 guys that we just talked about for the sake of saying, hey, they got experience. You see him right now being around the New York Knicks, not necessarily seeing any tick, but you now get a good front row seat on what is required in these playoffs, in these moments to push forward. Hopefully that some of that stuff can rub off on Precious Achiuwa and he can bring that over to Chicago if the Chicago Bulls explore that option. Now, the last person on the list I'm going to talk about is Keon Johnson. Now, he's more of a guard, but he is a 6'5" guard. So he does bring a little bit of size and length to the Chicago Bulls. This is a guy that has been taking steps forward for the Brooklyn Nets these past 2 seasons. Definitely started off with the Clippers, spent some time in Portland before he ended up with the Brooklyn Nets. only appeared in 5 games this past in 2023 to 24, but this past season appeared in 79 games and started 56 of them, and started to see a little bit more minutes on the actual NBA basketball court, averaging about 24 minutes per game, 10 points per game. Not give you 1 steal, couple assists, with 4 rebounds, and then you're looking at those shooting numbers. Could definitely improve. Not gonna lie to you, at 38% from the field and 31% from the three with 5 attempts from the three. Definitely can see this young player improve, but still definitely somebody that's really, really intriguing that you could probably consider when you look at how your guard rotation is going to look like, or if you want to slide them down to maybe a 3, if that's in your plans. Look, it's probably one of the ones I'm not too high on if I'm keeping it a buck, but hey, I still think you might have to, take a closer look at him and then make that determination on how you want to push forward with a player like Keon Johnson. But definitely was stepping up big time for the Brooklyn Nets as the season waned on this past season, with Cam Thomas going down throughout the season. So some really, really good, interesting prospects that you can look at, and you can decide on what you want to look at. One of the things that when doing a little research on Keon Johnson, one of the things I like is the mentality. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's why he made my list, because the man out there said, I want to go out there and guard the opposing team's best player. Now, it depends on the team, but it's still an interesting thing to say, considering, hey, I want dogs in the Chicago Bulls. I want some bulls on the court. I don't know about y'all. We don't want no sheep. You know what I'm saying? We want some guys that's gonna go out there, challenge themselves, and go out there and see if they can go up there and live up to the challenge that they placed on themselves. So I love that from this young guy. And again, the list was a full list. We'll probably be here for 30 minutes if I broke down all 8 players. But just taking a quick glimpse of these 4 players was very, very interesting to see where the Chicago Bulls will be looking to, considering they want young players with experience. That's why I've been harping on avoid trading for the superstar right now. Avoid go ahead and washing out all of your assets, or at least some of your assets, at least for right now. Just a little bit more patience with the process. I know we don't really like talking about it. I know we don't really like thinking about it, but the way that we're trying to move, it has to be different from how we moved in years past. Years past, we looked at the Chicago Bulls. We went out there and we got Nikola Vucevic. That was a trade. The offseason, we went out there and got, some seasoned vets in your Alex Caruso, in your DeMar DeRozan, young guys with experience like Alonzo Ball. And that was the first iteration of the team. Now we're kind of moving on to the second iteration of the team, seeing how Josh Giddey thing is going to play out, looking at how Kobe White thing is going to play out, seeing how the Chicago Bulls are going to navigate this Patrick Williams stuff. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what will the team look like come this upcoming October when it's time to play some damn basketball once again. We're going to be, I don't know how it's going to be feeling, but I say let's just go ahead and see what they do. We can all have our insight, our opinions, but that's the list. Those are the lists of potential prospects. All guys come in with some experience. All guys are still relatively young in their age. All these guys that we broke down today is going to be good defensive guys that you can add on to the Chicago Bulls, which is a really, really good thing and a necessity at this point that you have to figure out and navigate through. And it's going to mean something for some of the people we may like a Dalen Terry, like a Julian Phillips, but to hell with it. Who cares? Let's get this thing going in the right direction to where at the end of the season, we be like, all right, cool. It's another step forward, because we took some positives from this past season, but most of those positives came within that second half of the season. Let's move through a full season and take some positives out of that, and then hope that, hey, we can go ahead and place ourselves in another echelon, because right now we at the bottom. So we'll see. We'll see. Hey, but that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. Before y'all get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. The voice line is open, so if you want to call in and be a part of the next episode, call in, state your name, leave your take. The number to do so is 773-242-9219. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you always see red. Y'all already know. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
Cognac. Gang.